in future?
Well, when I say not all companies make their decision depending on the same basis, for example, I recall a very concrete example, and it happened to me only 2 weeks ago. There was a company, a large company, family-run company, and they wanted to go public. And they fulfill all the requirements. And then I saw the amount that they wanted to offer. I was really disappointed because we have two categories within our exchange, the first and second leagues, if you want. And they were remaining in the second, whilst they could easily go to the first one. And I asked them, why are you limiting? Because a little bit more effort, let's say 1% more offering, would bring them to the first category. And the CEO of the company, the chairman at the same time, told me, well, look, Ibrahim Bey, the reason why I'm going public is that I have several children, as you know, and it's a family-run business, children, nephew, etc. So after me, the company is risking to be divided. So to prevent this, I won't make it a publicly open company so that the heirs would find easily a place to sell their shares instead of breaking down into smaller pieces to the company. And this is nothing to do with I mean what we are discussing. And they may be reasons like this, and we cannot even imagine it before.
So see your point.
It's a side effect of that you don't have a demography problem in Turkey. It's quite unique. We envy you.
But what you're doing is testing out your marketing pitch, and I think that's fair and that's effective. I think that, look, every company and every exchange has its own challenges, so each one develops its own pitch. I think that if one aspires to be a regional financial center, that what goes with it, other than the first and most imperative entry point, which the professor said, first it's liquidity. You have to be assured that there's going to be liquidity in that market, not just for the IPO, but for the trading subsequent. And with it comes the questions of stability and long-term growth. You don't want to go to a market, well, some are looking for a habitat or a home. Some are looking for a step to another place, because a listing isn't forever. You can change your listing. So, you know,
delist?
You can you can be delisted, or you can delist and go in another place. I mean, you know, I can't tell you how much money NASDAQ and New York spend just to raid each other's companies. So, you know, I won't comment on whether or not I think it's an intelligent thing to do or not an intelligent thing to do, but we do it because it's part of our branding, you know. But so it's different strokes for different folks. It's a very complicated world. I mean, a lot of the companies, for example, in China, don't go to either the Hong Kong Stock Exchange or the Shanghai Stock Exchange at the IPO, not because they don't think their exchanges are going to be the exchanges for the long term or the future, but because those exchanges have requirements that require those companies to have at least 1 year of earnings. And so they or multiple years of earnings. So they don't want to go there, even though they get a lot more volatility in their stock. They just can't go there. A lot of companies that are aspiring for global markets want to be out of their region to give the visibility, the publicity of being in a global market, as opposed to with a small m, as opposed to a stock exchange market with a big M. But so it's very complicated.
So I guess there is an ultimate and imperative factor, and I would formulate it as good governance and proper functioning. Yes. With any reason. If the market is not properly functioning and if it lacks of good corporate governance, it's end of the story. I mean, you will never have anything at all.
And here's what I'm going to say, and you know I'm not saying it because I'm your guest here today, because I frequently insult my guests, my hosts. I think this market.
I will keep in mind this when inviting you.
That's right. You both have done. Both of your markets have done extraordinary things. 4 years ago, you had an aspiration. You had inklings that you could become a global market, but you've convinced the whole region that you are the stable place, that you are the best technological place, that you have the best governance, and that's why you have a very strong regional business. And this exchange is growing by leaps and bounds and has become a global player based on the hard work, the tenacity, and most of all the competence and vision that has been shown here. I see the same thing in different ways, in different manifestations in the in the Istanbul Stock Exchange. And when I went there, I said to the regulators, I think you're crazy when you're fragmenting your markets, that everybody else in the world is developing a consolidated market, a vertically and horizontally integrated market. Don't fragment it. So I have been there and I've insulted the regulators. But the fact of the matter is that you folks have succeeded. Which only makes, since we consider everybody competition and customers, I take my hat off to you. I think both markets have done extraordinarily well. And for Cyprus to be able to soldier on day in and day out with 500,000 population in a very, very unstable region, to be honest, in a lot of ways, I take my hat off to you as well. You have developed your niche, and the nice thing about each of us is that we all have to take our own game plan and follow it, and I think all of us are being successful in one form or another in pursuing winning strategies for our exchanges.
Thank you, Sandy. You are also doing not bad, in what is New York, right?
Who?
New York. Yes, this is your home market.
They're a.
We know that you
they're a
have
boutique exchange that loses money on equities in the United States.
Not at the same time, okay?
No, well, I admit that he may have some concerns regarding the future of the U.S., but don't worry, you will survive, Sandy.
America will survive.
We will support you.
I'm really glad you say that. I have 3 houses there, and I bet on it. Although one of them is by the ocean, so I'm getting nervous about global warming.
Buy one in Antalya.
That's a diversification strategy.
Yes.
Last remarks from Marek and Giorgio before we are removed from this stage by force. Because time's up around 15 minutes ago or something like this, but Marek.
I am sure that the exchanges which are present here will survive in spite of the crisis. Crisis has hit all of us virtually. The turnover on the shares is down everywhere. The number of companies, except our exchange, in 2011 remained the same or even decreased. Plus, we have new directive, amendment of MiFID directive, which provides competition of different markets. But stock exchanges have changed. There are so many ideas, there are so many new products, there are so many new alliances. For example, Cyprus, I understand that you have an alliance, some kind of agreement with Tel Aviv, so exchanges cooperate. BRICS idea, the cooperation between exchanges in Brazil, India, Russia, and China. That shows that the community of the exchanges is totally different than it was 10 or 15 years ago. It's very active, it's looking for new products, and I'm sure that after the crisis, we'll go ahead, and there is room for everybody, not only for NASDAQ or MX, but also for independent exchanges like the 3 others. Thank you.
Yeah, my final remarks is that irrespective of size and location, stock exchanges share the same experiences, the same problems, the same challenges. And another way is that the team is comprised of stock exchanges, the entrepreneurs, and the investors. And any successful team, even in football and other teams, they must develop the following ideas. They must know each other, they must know the rules of the game, they cooperate, and the last two elements, they must respect and play a fair game, just to steal from the Champions League slogans and terms. Respect and play a fair game for everybody.
Thank you.
Nothing to add apart from that. I will definitely invite you for next year's edition of this conference for such a panel. And if you agree with me, please applaud the panelists once more. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, gentlemen. Thank you for this interesting, lively discussion.
Great.